Hi, everyone, and welcome to episode 3 of Genesis BCW's Moving People podcast. I'm your host, Pierre Fitter. This is a podcast where we talk about the world of integrated communications. In today's episode, we'll focus on an industry that's been leading the way on work from home. Yet, like every other industry, the path to remote working was not smooth. So, how did communications help the tech industry reimagine the workplace while also building business resilience? To learn about that, we'll be speaking to someone who's not just been paying close attention, but has also been a key driver of this. Kavita Doshi is the head of corporate and digital communications at NASSCOM, the National Association of Software and Service Companies. Welcome, Kavita, and thank you for joining us on episode 3 of the Moving People podcast.
Thanks, Pierre. My pleasure completely.
Great having you with us, Kavita. I actually wanted to start with a question about yourself because you've obviously been in this role for a while. How did you get into this role at NASSCOM? Can you tell us a little bit about your trajectory through the comms industry?
So, Pierre, I've always been very attracted to this world of communications. Before NASSCOM, I used to work with some member companies and within the tech industries with companies like New Horizons India. That was the time when they had just set up in India, and it was great learning. But that thing of doing something larger, doing something broader for the industry was always ringing in me. And as soon as I got an opportunity with NASSCOM, I just took no time to grab it. My stint at NASSCOM has been the longest, more than 12 years now. And I think managing communications for an industry that one represents and the impact that one can create gives a great sense of satisfaction and fulfillment.
Yeah, I wanted to pick up on something you said about the working on something larger, right? Because NASSCOM as an organization deals with literally hundreds of members spread across India. You also work on priority areas that deal with NASSCOM's work outside of India. How do you manage communications when you have such a large base of members? There must be challenges with that. How do you generate consensus when it comes to differences of opinion and issues like that?
So I think that's the beauty of NASSCOM Peer and the kind of support that we get from the industry. I mean, we have a very robust group of, communication people, communication professionals within the industry. And I think we work very, very closely with all of them. We are constantly exchanging notes, learning from each other. And I think the only way to get consensus is to consult and collaborate at every step. In fact, most of our, media roundtables also are made from a point of view of, how is it that it can benefit industry and how is it that we can actually get more and more industry people to, collaborate with us on them. And I think we get great support from the industry on that.
And I'm guessing that you guys have been doing Zoom and Teams calls well before the lockdown started in that case.
Not as much as we do it now, but yes, that was a part.
Exactly. And I do want to actually touch on that because, many people look at the IT industry and then they say, you guys started the outsourcing trend. So you've been remote working for decades. You guys should be used to this whole lockdown, work from home thing. But it's not as if the IT industry didn't have challenges with the lockdown. Tell us what it was looking like from your perspective back in March 2020 when all of this started.
See, yes, it wasn't easy, but NASSCOM took the charge and helped the industry shift to complete work from home within a very short span of time. Agreed that the industry had this model in the past, but then, shifting millions of people in such a short time is a very, very challenging task. And it was a great teamwork. And here, I think, Pierre, I would really especially like to thank my communications team who worked round the clock as messaging and transparency were key aspects during that time. So I think without them, it wouldn't have been possible.
Kavita, I do want to take a closer look at that point on communications within the industry, because whenever we chat with our clients and also within the communications industry itself, they point to the role of communications as probably the most important aspect in getting companies and teams ready to work from home. How have you seen communications itself evolve in the past 18 odd months?
So I think communications is now no more something that follows an action. It drives the action. And especially when you are in a pandemic like situation where there is just so much. So it is just not about work peer. It is also about employees. It's about their families, everybody, when everybody is going through the tough times, I think it's only communication that can reassure employees as to what is it that the employers are doing for them. I think all of us know that without digital today, we wouldn't have been in the place that we are. We wouldn't have sailed through so smoothly. But at the same time, going forward, I feel while digital is the future, but every aspect of communication, whether it is print media, whether it is digital media, whether it's social media, I mean, we've all come to learn that all of them have their own spaces, and there are many stakeholders involved in each one of them. And I think I just respect each medium all the more now.
So, Kavita, you mentioned employees, and the IT industry in India employs close to 4.5 million people. And I'm sure many of them would have also had concerns, just like every other industry going into the lockdown. How did the industry and NASSCOM respond to some of these challenges as an umbrella organization?
So while NASSCOM represents industry peer at large, employees are its biggest strength. And the key challenge today industry is facing is the skilling gap. NASSCOM with the industry has come together and created this portal called Future Skills, and now Future Skills Prime, of course, which helps an employee to not only look for job roles but also relevant skill sets for the same. So I think it's a great platform for employees to reskill themselves and move ahead in their careers.
It's interesting that you mentioned that, because a lot of people say that when times are tough, move to skilling and reskilling. And it's great to see NASSCOM actually leading the way over there, and helping its members take charge in that direction. I wanted to talk a little bit about this, where the conversation is shifting now, which is a return to work, because that's something NASSCOM looks at quite strongly. I know that you have a lot of focus on resiliency, for example. Now, abroad, we're seeing tech companies like Google and Amazon adopt different models. We're seeing Google talking about cutting pay for staff who work from home. Amazon, Apple, Microsoft are talking about hybrid work, 3 days at work, 2 days at home. Twitter says that employees can work from home forever. What kind of responses are you seeing from the Indian tech industry? Is it hybrid work? Is it back to work? How are we seeing this here?
So without getting into any company specific models, as of now, from a broader industry perspective, hybrid model is here to stay, is what I feel. From a communications perspective, Pierre, our job is to get the message out clearly to all stakeholders. And I think, we've constantly been advocating on this issue as to, what is it that employers feel, how is it that the hybrid model will work, what is the kind of best practices the companies are looking at. I think we're constantly, giving that out to all the stakeholders as from a communications perspective.
So, Kavita, speaking specifically about hybrid work, does the industry recognize any benefits, sort of like unintended positive consequences?
Yeah, I think we are, as an industry, what we've seen in the past is that, with this hybrid work model coming into play, women who earlier had to kind of leave their jobs because of the little ones that they had to take care of at home, have now been able to kind of manage both. So they are also we also have that kind of talent coming in our workforce who are working from home. Apart from that, I feel that, going if we are really able to crack this in the long run, then this is a great way to decongest cities and probably also mobilize the economies in tier 2 towns.
So, Kavita, thanks so much for spending time taking us through how the industry has been evolving its communications. We do have a fun part to all our podcasts, which is the rapid fire round. Are you ready for that?
Yeah, bring it on.
Great. Okay. So in between home and office, did you explore any other locations during lockdown?
Not possible with an 8-year-old.
Okay. Well, speaking of having an 8-year-old, give us a few tips for tech professionals to maintain work-life balance.
Let's not take anything seriously.
Good point. What's your go-to app on your phone?
WhatsApp.
Yeah, I think few of us can manage without that at this stage. Describe your workstation at home right now. What do you have?
Cluttered.
And speaking of cluttered workstations, is that what you're going to miss when you return to office, or is it something else?
So I think I definitely miss the family time, and I definitely miss this balance. I think it's great to have this balance in life.
Wise words. Thank you, Kavita, so much for spending time with us, and especially those great answers in the rapid fire round. It was fantastic having you on the podcast this month. And I'm sure our listeners as well have got a few ideas on what they can adopt back at their workplaces when it comes to returning to work. Folks, that was Kavita Doshi from NASSCOM talking about how the tech sector has been dealing with work from home and preparing to return to work. That's the end of this month's episode on the Moving People podcast. See you all next month.